let's talk about how you develop the material then. You come up with it from your own inspiration, not who you're going to target to, how many women between this age are going to watch it.
Right.
So
even though it is a vampire show. But it was, you know, Vampire Mafia is just too... I mean, the Mafia thing is always a fun world. Bad guys are just fun, and it's a fun world. And I based some of it on the state of organized crime in Boston in the late 80s after the FBI had done a sweep of the Patriarca family through wiretaps. There was a big battle for turf, essentially, like who owned what, and so the off-screen logic of Vampire Mob was that was the world, that was the state of this world, and so as I cooked it, actually, the first place Vampire Mob was a short play that was performed at the Russell Group Theater in Santa Monica. They have a thing they've been doing for 9 years called the LA Cafe Plays, where the third Sunday of every month, 5 writers meet at 9 o'clock in the morning. They throw 10 envelopes on the floor and we pick them up and pull them out, and there's 2 headshots with no resume. That's our cast, and we're given a theme, and we have 4 hours to write a play. We're done at 1. Start printing, it goes to the cast and director and assistant director. They rehearse it until 7:30. That's the first performance, and then they do another show at 9. So I've written about 26 or 7 of those plays, and Vampire Mob was the first one. And it was one of those things that, like if you take a screenwriting class, they will tell you, like some teachers will say, well, let's take your characters grocery shopping, just to see what they do, see how they interact with the world. And the only time you do that is when you're in class, because no one's going to do that. Well, let me waste some time doing that. But writing that play really let me know a bunch of stuff about the character, and even at that point, Don had a different name. He was a Mafia guy. He wasn't a hitman yet. There was some inference, but it was about his character meeting the person to become a vampire, and it was something I never wanted to shoot. I wanted to, the kind of classic screenwriting thing, come in as late as possible, leave as early as possible in a scene. I wanted to come in right before the shit hit the fan, and I didn't want all that set up. So by minute 3 of the first episode, we already have what the conflict is. We already know a bunch of things. So the way I write, and right now I'm writing 3rd season, and I have piles of legal pads, and I just jam. No rules, anything that comes into my head about any character, any line, any scene, and I just start writing these little things down. And when I wrote the 2nd season, I went to the 1st season legal pad stuff that I'd written, and there was one little, spoiler alert, there's one little thing that I had that Don, the main character who's a hitman, had killed another character's father, and she didn't know it. And that was always something that was in the biography of the case. Only I knew that, nobody else knew that, but it was in those notes. And in looking through essentially the character bios, I mean, I don't get that, I write kind of like who they are, what are they about, what do they want, that kind of thing. But once I know enough about the characters, then I can go, well, here's what this character wants, and here's what this character wants in this world. What's to stop each of these characters from getting what they want? And that's when plot and all the other stuff, for me, comes about. So it's really, like if you're a painter, maybe you sketch, and you kind of figure stuff out first, and then you start hitting the canvas. For me, the legal pads are just play, pure play. It's a playground. Write anything you want. I write stuff I want to end up using. I write stuff that I do. I'll write out whole scenes. Sometimes I'll just bullet stuff. And then once I have it cooking, I sort of have my rules for web series. I try to have 3 locations per episode. I try to end with some kind of conflict, which is pretty classic episodic writing, that what happens in the next episode? Like, you want to end at a point that will make you think, well, I want to watch the next episode. What the hell happened next? That's what I want. And I always write each episode as an individual file. I never write the whole script. I write episode 1 as one file, I write episode 2, and they never come together until I have them all written. Part of that is a complete psychology trick, because I'm not writing a long script, I'm just writing these little things. I'm shooting these little things. And then when you put them all together, wow, that's a lot of shit. And the first season was a 33-page script. The second season was an 82-page script when they were put all together. And I write very sparse, lots of white, and I will, in post-production, I'll cut stuff out. I've cut lines out, I've rearranged stuff. I now understand much more about getting rewritten, having written and shot stuff, but those are kind of structurally my rules. So then what I'll do is I'll have episode 1, I'll have a 1, 2, 3. Those are the 3 kind of main story points of each episode. Like I try to have like, Don finds out that Frank gets out of jail in this episode. His wife has this reaction to this. And then once I have a bare bones and I know where it's going, then I'll sit down and actually write the script. So I kind of like do a free-form jam on a legal pad, kind of cook the characters, cook the story, come up with some ideas, and then give a little structure to each episode. So a very loose outline, like one sentence, and then that gives me enough play because I don't want to have everything so planned out nothing can happen when I'm writing. And then I'll sit down and actually write the dialogue and write the scenes, and because I know where I'm going. I know that I need to end by this. So it makes me recognize, I can't write a 5-page scene because I don't have that kind of time. With season 3, so far the episodes are going to be a lot longer.
Do you write at home? Do you find yourself getting too distracted there? Do you go to a coffee shop?
No, I tried to be a coffee shop writer. I always need to write on a laptop. Some of that is pure psychological. It's like, it's just a little laptop. There's just something about like desk seems like, let me do a spreadsheet. Yeah, just something about it doesn't seem. It just seems closer to kind of like handwriting, and but a laptop anywhere, in bed, on the couch. If I'm in a public, when I write cafe plays, I'm in we all meet at a cafe to write it at the back on Broadway. On Broadway in Santa Monica, I have headphones on, and I always listen to music that I know really well, and I always listen to Fats Waller. I listen to a lot of Fats Waller when I write because it occupies the part of my brain that can think of something to do other than writing. I find that it's just like that part of my brain that's like, maybe we should go for a walk. Maybe, what about another cup of coffee? Instead, it's just like, that's occupied and I'm just writing, and it creates this little fantasy world. And that's the way I look at writing. Is like, I don't believe in writer's block. It doesn't exist. It's bullshit. It's just some ideas take a little longer. But to have this kind of, I'm just playing. This is all play. Like, it's got to be fun. If it's not fun, why am I doing it? I'm writing. Oh. Who wants to do that? I'm not getting paid. This is going to take everything out of me when I shoot this. I'm playing. I'm right. This is going to be so much fun for these actors. That's the other thing to keep in mind is like, I keep the actors in mind when I'm writing. Like, because I pay money to SAG for some reason. I don't act anymore, but I have acted. It's so much fun to be handed something and go, oh, this is going to be so much fun to do. Because when I'm writing it, it's the same thing. Oh, this is going to be so much fun to do. So those are sort of my loose. Even if I'm writing a feature, it's the same process. It's just a different structure, but it's got to be fun.